The house felt eerily quiet, too quiet. Michael's small footsteps barely echoed in the hallway. His laughter, once constant, seemed like a distant memory. It was strange. Everything was different. It felt like the world had shifted, and we were all trying to adjust to this new reality. I glanced at the empty space where Alex had once sat at the dinner table. The place he'd occupied was now a reminder of a mistake I wished I could undo. But I couldn't go back. None of us could. The damage had been done. I looked at John, sitting across from me. He seemed lost in his thoughts, his gaze distant. The man I had once known so well now felt like a stranger. His eyes, those deep brown eyes that used to be filled with warmth, now seemed colder. We no longer shared the same quiet moments of comfort, the same effortless connection. It was like the bond between us had been shattered, and we were struggling to put the pieces back together. "Where did Alex go?" Michael asked one afternoon, looking up at me with innocent curiosity. I hesitated. The truth was hard to say out loud, and I didn't know how to explain it. How could I explain it to a child who deserved nothing but honesty? The truth would be too much for him to understand. "He found another job," I said, forcing the words out. It wasn't a complete lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. Michael didn't seem satisfied with the answer, but he didn't press. He simply nodded and went back to his toys, the confusion lingering in his eyes. I didn't blame him. I was just as confused as he was. John and I had started counseling. It was his idea. At first, I resisted. I didn't want anyone to see how broken we were, how far we'd fallen. But I agreed anyway. We had to try. For Michael. For our marriage. The sessions were difficult. The counselor asked hard questions, and it wasn't always easy to find the right words. Some days, I left feeling drained, like I'd shared too much, like I'd opened wounds I wasn't ready to face. But other days, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could heal. Maybe we could rebuild. The hardest part was answering the counselor's question. "Why did you kiss Alex?" I stared at her, unsure of how to respond. The question seemed so simple, yet it cut deep. I I felt alone," I said finally. My voice wavered, but I pressed on. John was always busy, always working. It felt like we were living separate lives. I needed someone to see me, to make me feel important. Alex made me feel that way. John's face fell. He didn't say anything, but I could feel the weight of his disappointment. He didn't want to hear it, but I knew it was the truth. He'd been absent emotionally, and I'd sought comfort in someone else. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. It's not something you can fix with a simple apology or a few nice words. It takes time, patience, and hard work. But even then, it's never the same. John didn't trust me the way he used to. I could see it in his eyes. He watched me more closely now. If I came home late, he'd ask why. If I spent too much time on my phone, he'd question who I was talking to. I couldn't blame him. After what had happened, I didn't trust him either. The revelation of his own affair had shaken me to the core. "How could you do that to me?" I had asked him when I found out. "How could you betray me like that?" The hurt in his eyes was real, but so was the pain in mine. It was a raw, ugly truth we both had to confront. The counselor told us we needed to be patient, that healing wouldn't happen overnight. But the road ahead didn't feel easy. It felt long and uncertain. Some days, I wasn't sure we'd make it, but we tried. We tried for Michael. We tried because we loved each other. And sometimes, love is all you have left to hold on to. John started coming home earlier from work. We had dinner together more often. He took Michael to his soccer practice on the weekends, and we spent time as a family. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. A small, shaky start, but a start nonetheless. One evening after dinner, I asked John about the woman he had been seeing. I had never asked before. I was afraid of the answer, but now I needed to know. Who was she? His face tightened, and he shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Her name is Lisa," he said. "She worked at the same office." The name stung. I didn't want to know more, but I had to ask. "Do you still see her?" "No," he answered quickly. "It ended before you told me about Alex." The relief I felt was small, but it was there. At least he wasn't still seeing her. But the damage was done. It hurt to know he had been unfaithful. It hurt to know he had turned to someone else just as I had. We sat in silence for a while, and then John spoke again. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I made a mistake. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." "I love you too," I said. The words felt heavy, but they were true. Despite everything, I still loved him. We both made mistakes, but we both wanted to fix things. The next few months felt like a slow journey. We had good days and bad days. Days when we'd laugh together, and days when silence filled the space between us. We were learning how to be together again, how to trust again. We spent more time together as a family. We played board games, went on nature walks, and watched movies late into the night. Michael was happy, and that made everything worth it. He didn't ask about Alex anymore, and I was relieved. He was too young to understand what had happened. I didn't want him to know. I didn't want him to grow up with that kind of pain. But it wasn't always easy. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking about Alex. Sometimes I'd wonder if John thought about Lisa. But we didn't let those thoughts consume us. We kept moving forward, focusing on the present. One weekend, John surprised me. He suggested we take a trip, just the two of us. No distractions, no work, no Michael, just the two of us. It felt strange at first to be alone with him after everything that had happened. But as the weekend went on, I realized how much I had missed our connection. The small moments, the laughter, the conversations, the quiet understanding between us. They were still there. We just had to find them again. On the last night of our trip, after a quiet dinner at a small seaside restaurant, John pulled out a small box. I was confused. What was he doing? When I opened it, I gasped. It was a new wedding ring. I want us to start fresh, John said softly. A new ring for a new start. Tears welled up in my eyes. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't known what to expect, but this felt like hope, like a chance to rebuild. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, John said, his voice thick with emotion. Let's start over. And so, we did. We started over. The past wasn't gone, but we were choosing to move forward together. Back home, things were different. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but we were working on it. We went to counseling when we needed to, and we kept learning about each other. We didn't let the mistakes define us. We let our love define us. Michael was growing up fast. He was happy, and I could see the change in him. He wasn't weighed down by the things he didn't understand. He was simply enjoying life, and that made everything feel lighter. We were creating new memories, and we were doing it together. It wasn't always easy. There were hard days, and there were moments when the past threatened to rise up again. But we kept pushing forward. We kept choosing each other. And that, I think, was the key to it all. Looking back, I realized how close we had come to losing everything. But instead of falling apart, we chose to rebuild. We chose to keep fighting. And now, every day feels like a new chance to love, to trust, and to build the life we want together.